All right, friends, welcome back to our online Bible study in the book of Acts. This is day 2. This is day 1 for me, and I am really excited about reading this book together. It's hard to believe, but it has been 3.5 years that we've been filming these deals, these daily Bible studies now. And the hope, whether you've been a part of it all along or this is your first time engaging in one of these, the hope is that these videos make it a little bit easier for you to engage in the Bible daily, to engage with it. Because we think that's a total game changer. So we hope these videos are helpful, and we hope that reading through the book of Acts is going to be really meaningful to you this year. So this week we're reading through some really powerful stories at the beginning of Acts. And arguably the one that we're going to look at today is the least exciting of all of those. I don't know how I got this one, but this is the one that I got. But it's still super important. So we're looking today at the second half of Acts chapter 1. If you haven't read it already, I'd encourage you to read it. I'm going to read just parts of it, but I want to draw something out of it. In this little part, we see that the disciples, the early followers of Jesus, along with other followers that are around them, have a problem. In fact, they have 2 problems. And how they navigate those problems say a lot to us about how we can navigate problems as followers of Jesus ourselves. This year, we're really trying to see the world the way those early Christians saw it, to see the world the way Jesus saw it, and be transformed by that. And we see here a little bit about how it is that we navigate problems. So I'm just going to read the beginning in verse 12. Then the apostles returned to Jerusalem from the hill called the Mount of Olives, a Sabbath day's walk from the city. A Sabbath's walk isn't how far you could walk on a Sabbath, but it's how far you were allowed to by the Sabbath laws. It's about 1 kilometer. It's about how far you were allowed to walk on the day of rest. It's the day when you're supposed to rest, so you can only walk about that far. The Mount of Olives is just to the east of Jerusalem. If you've seen a picture of Jerusalem with a gold dome, the dome with the rock, that was probably taken from the Mount of Olives. So they were there. Then they walk back in. And when they arrived, they went upstairs to the room where they were staying. Those present were, I won't read it, but it lists off the 11 disciples minus Judas Iscariot, who's the one who betrayed Jesus. He's no longer around. They talk about that a little bit further. You'll read that in a minute. They all joined together constantly in prayer, along with the women and Mary, the mother of Jesus, and with his brothers. In those days, Peter stood among the believers. There are about 120 of them, and he begins to talk. And again, there's a problem. What's the problem? It won't seem like it's a big problem, but it was a problem to them. Now that Judas is gone, there's only 11 disciples. They're now called apostles. There's only 11. There needs to be 12. Why do there need to be 12? Well, they see themselves as a part of the larger story of God. The larger story of God, before Jesus, you had 12 tribes of Israel. Those 12 tribes of Israel make up what? They make up the people of God. They make up the nation of Israel. Well, now God is doing something new. He's expanding the people of God. It's opened up to all people now. And they see themselves as starting to build this new thing that will eventually be called the church, the Christian faith. And just like there were 12 tribes, there need to be 12 apostles, 12 disciples. And they got a second problem. They don't know who this 12th person should be. They kind of think about it a little bit. And they say, down here in verse 23, read the middle part, super important, but I can't highlight everything. They say, it should probably be Joseph, called Barsabbas, who's also known as Justus. He's really important. He has 3 names. Or it should be Matthias. It should probably be one of those 2. They've been around from the very beginning. It should probably be one of those 2. We don't know which one, so they cast lots. It's like they roll dice, saying, we're just going to go with however the dice, it's just roll the dice. We're going to go with whichever one the dice show us, casting lots. I don't suggest that you make major life decisions that way, but you can see the point underneath it. The point underneath it is that they're leaving this up to God. They have said, we think these 2 are probably good candidates. We're just going to kind of let God lead the way here. They have a problem, and what do? Well, first they spend time praying together. Then they use their brains. And then they trust God. We're going to read a whole lot more about what happens in the early days of the church, including tomorrow, which is just one of the most important stories. This story here is an easy one to pass over, but again, I think there's so much good stuff here. When we got problems, what do? Well, look right there at verse 14. They joined together constantly in prayer. Not only did they pray, but they prayed together. Are you spending time not only in prayer, but praying with other people? Praying with your friends, praying with your family. I work at a church. I'm lucky. We pray before like everything. We pray before meetings. We pray before meals, all of that stuff. Are you spending time praying with the people who are around you? If you're intimidated by that, here's what I would suggest that you do. When you're with somebody, you just say, hey, why don't we just not worry about like saying all the flowery words, but we can both just be quiet for a minute and both be praying at the same time for whatever this thing is. And you can also pray together out loud. But sometimes there's power in just being quiet and praying together. So we pray together. And then we use our brains. We say, okay, all right, these two things seem like good options. Like they pick these two people. They use their brains. Just like we use our brains. And then ultimately trust the results to God. I don't know where you are. I don't know what decisions that you've got to make. But my guess is that if you've got some major decisions to make, following that same plan that these early followers of Jesus followed, seeing what they saw clearly, is going to be a good next step for you also. Pray and pray with other people. Use your brain. Think through it. And trust God. We're going to keep reading, friends. We're going to see a lot of great stuff. The one tomorrow is awesome. Wish they'd let me talk about that. But tomorrow's going to be awesome. And just keep with your reading. Keep looking for how God is seeking to show you the world and himself more clearly. And keep looking at how he's trying to change you. How he's leading you to be transformed. God bless you, friends. And I will see you again soon.